Have you ever done something and you poured your heart into it, like you put a ton of effort in and nobody noticed? I know what that feels like. Something falls out the cupboard and I catch it, like out of sight. And I look, first instinct, I look around to see who saw, and I'm disappointed if nobody did. But if somebody saw it, wow, I'm like a recognition seeker sucker. So if I take the rubbish out, I want my whole family to know. I won't take it out late at night when nobody sees. I'm going to tie the bag early in the morning when everybody's around and carry it through and grunt and groan. No, it's not that bad. But I genuinely do want them to notice. And unfortunately, it's just part of our human nature that we are built to want to receive recognition for the work that we do. And it's something that we have to be aware of and something that we have to make sure that we understand the motive behind what we're doing. The other part to it is that there are many things that we do where you're not going to get the recognition. And those are things that are just part of life. It's like ironing your clothes. I've seen my own children, my own clothes, and I've seen other children walking into the school. I drop the girls off and I see a child walk in and their jersey is so creased. And I don't judge them. I smile because I know sometimes our clothes are like that. And I think to myself, it's just the irony of it, is that there are so many children that walk in. Their clothes are ironed, and that's why it's an irony. There are so many children, their clothes are perfectly ironed. Nobody goes around applauding and saying, well done, parents, well done. Your children, their clothes are so beautifully pressed. Did you steam iron? Like, nobody cares. But just let your shirt not be ironed, and all of a sudden everybody notices. That's the reality of life. And we want to see, well, how does that play in to our faith journey? What are the things that, yes, we can get recognition for, but what are the things that we actually don't want recognition for? Because when you stack up all of those little tasks, like paying the electricity bill every single month, nobody comes and thanks me. My children don't say, hey, Dad, thanks for the last year. You've paid the electricity. If I don't pay it once, I'll never hear the end of it. But you know what happens over time? Those things that don't get rewarded, they seem insignificant, or they stack up. And ultimately, they become really important because they build a security, a safety. They build a memory that you can't replace. And so we want to see from a faith perspective, well, where is it that we need to find recognition and where is it that we need to be careful? Because there is a recognition trap where we start doing things just because we want recognition for it. And so checking our motive and making sure what lies behind the drive of what we do is so, so important. And I think the reason for that is that as a society, we connect recognition with significance. So the more recognition you get for something, well, obviously the more important it is. And that's just not the case. So we can end up pushing, striving, chasing after all the likes and the shares and the comments and the applause and the well dones and the, oh, you're amazing. And by doing that, we think, oh, this must be significant, whilst losing out on the most important things in life. And that's what we want to check, because that mindset of chasing after those things is ultimately just instant gratification. It's that I can do something, I get a high and I feel great, even though my life might not be moving in the direction that it should. Even though I might not be doing the most important things, I'm feeling important and feeling happy and losing out ultimately. So that recognition trap is linked to delayed gratification so that I can do important things and not get any applause. And if you look at an Olympic athlete, that's the journey that they are on. And I like equating our faith journey to elite athletes because that's how serious we want to be. I'm not saying you have to be an elite athlete. I'm saying as a follower of Christ, that's what we are called to. We are called to the spiritual Olympics, where we are serious about it and we are willing to let go of everything else so that we can grab hold of that prize. That's how important it is. And when you speak to an Olympic athlete and you understand the journey it is to get to just compete, never mind to win the medal, but by winning the medal, well, what does that mean? Like that recognition doesn't come close to actually showing all of the hard work, the training, all of the things that they are doing. And you know that those Olympic athletes, they could go run in their local 10K race, like every Saturday. They could go find in their city all the small little races, and they could go and smoke everybody. And yes, they'll get the medal and they'll get the prize. What does it actually mean? What does it mean to win that when you're aiming for Olympic gold? Then don't go look for the applause from the populace. No, you have your mind set on something very different, something far more important. And as believers, we don't want to get sucked in to doing things that seem so Christian, that seem so like, oh, you're so spiritual, oh, you're so holy, oh, you're so great, and getting applause from the people around us, but missing out on the real prize. And that all comes down to the most important aspect. It's what race are you actually running in? Are you running in a race to get the applause of people around you? Or are you running in the race to please the Lord? And how do we tell the difference between those two? And how do we make sure that what we are really rewarding is the most important thing? Because ultimately, God is not going to reward our actions. He's going to reward the motive that lies underneath the action. And that is something that we need to pay attention to. So this is the biblical approach to the rewards. And I want to read this when it just gets right to the core of it. It's from 1 Corinthians chapter 3. We want to read from verse 12, a few verses, and it says, "Now, if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw." So there we have 6 different things in 2 different categories. "Each one's work will become clear, for the day will declare it." And that day is a judgment, is a special judgment day that has been set aside, because it will be revealed by fire. And fire in the scriptures is a testing. And the fire will test each one's work of what sort it is. If anyone's work which he has built on it endures, he will receive a reward. But if anyone's work is burned, he will suffer loss. But he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. So it makes it super clear. This judgment is not about salvation. This judgment is about your works and the rewards you're going to receive. And even if you get nothing at the end of the test, you will still be saved. But what is it testing? So gold, silver, and precious stones. When you take those and put them through a fire, what happens? Well, they don't get destroyed, they get refined, they get purified. Then that's what comes out on the other side. Wood, hay, and straw, put that through a fire, what happens? Well, you're left with ash, with nothing. And what is it that God is testing there? He's testing the motive behind the works. That is the big difference. So as Christians, we are not told that our works are just going to be weighed. You know that picture, and it's a false picture, but that picture of the scales, these 2 huge scales, and all your works, good and bad, and then you're going to see which one is heavier. That's not the case. The case is all your works, everything that you've done, especially the things that you've done in the name of the Lord, for the Lord, that's going to be put through the fire. That's going to be tested. And the motive is going to be clarified. And so you are going to be left not weighing like which one is heavier. You're going to be left with, what did you do out of a pure motive? What did you do sincerely wanting to please the Lord? That is what is going to remain. And it is such a beautiful way of God telling us, don't aim for the reward, because it's not the reward that is important. Aim for the motive. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it for yourself? Or are you doing it to please others? Is it pointing just to you? Or are you doing it so that God really is going to be glorified through it, that he will receive the praise? So that's when you can see that receiving the gold medal is not the prize. I could go to the Olympics. Now imagine, I go to the Olympics and I pick an event and I go and I stand on the podium and they come and give me the big gold medal. But I didn't earn it. Do you know how fake that's going to be? Even though the medal is real. Why? Because I don't have the process behind it. When the Olympic athlete stands on that podium and they receive that medal and they have tears in their eyes, it's not because of the value of the medal. It's because of the value that they understand of the work that they have put in. The hours of training where they've pushed their limits, the diet that they have had to be on, the other things that they've had to say no to throughout their life. when they are pushing through on sore muscles, where they lack motivation, where they want to give up, but they still show up every single day, that's what that medal represents. And that's what we are looking for in our faith journey. It's those days when nobody else sees how much you're doing. Nobody stands on the Olympic podium and plays a reel of every single one of their training sessions so that the people can be like, oh, wow, you really worked hard for this. They know how hard they worked. And so in our faith journey, that's what God is looking for. He's looking for those moments that you spend with Him when it's really difficult, the moments when it's tough, the moments when you feel like, oh, I'd rather not, but you show up, the moments when it's difficult to trust, but you do, because you know that that is the most important thing. God's looking for us to be able to stack those together and to be able to do them with a pure motive. That's the work that He wants to do in us. So when we can clarify our motives, that's when we can see, well, why am I doing that? And I know this is not an easy thing. To clarify your motives and to see clearly your why beneath what you do, it is a real work. And those paths intertwine like this. So we are told that we have to run this race. We're going to run the race, which is this race that we have in life, the spiritual race, and the Bible speaks about it so beautifully. We're going to run this race of faith. But we're also running a race in the world of just trying to survive and to cope. And those races are going to do this. They are going to overlap and intertwine. And sometimes you're going to get it wrong and you're going to do things for recognition from people. And other times you're going to maybe withdraw and say like, okay, no, hang on. Why am I doing that? Like this is the wrong reason. Let me rather get to spending time with God. And that's where I can look and I can say, okay, what's the easiest way for me to know why I'm doing something? So the other day, Sophie, our little one, she gets into the car. I fetch her from school and she says, you know what, Dad, I'm really going to try and make Mom happy today. I'm going to go and do all the things that she always asks me to do and I keep forgetting. So it's clean her lunchbox and get dressed and put her clothes away and get ready for the next day and like those basic things. And a big thing is that she doesn't want to watch a lot of TV. So now we get home and she's so proud that this is what she's going to do. And she goes and she does all of these little things. And I'm saying, she asked me, Dad, please don't tell Mom. And I was like, no, my girlie, I won't. But it was tough. So I'm sitting there seeing her do this and hoping that Jess sees and recognizes it. And by the end, like a few tasks later, Sophie just couldn't help it anymore. And she goes to her mom and she's like, Mom, did you see what I did today? Because she's looking for that recognition. And I understand what it's like to want to do something and to find it difficult to keep it a secret. And in our faith, you're probably going to find that same challenge. You're going to commit to something and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to do this and I want it to be for the right motive. And I don't want anybody else to know. And then a few weeks later in conversation, you let it slip. And you're like, oh, you know what I've been doing? I get it. And I want us all to continue with the challenge of seeking out those moments, because the acts that are done quietly, when we do them away from human praise, that's what brings real clarity to our motives. When nobody else knows what we're doing, when you are doing it and it's no one sees, you know that that's never the case, because there is someone who will always see. And actually, He is the one who needs to see. And when He is the one who sees, when He's the only one who sees, well, that brings absolute clarity to our motives, where we can say, now I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it with the right heart, because only God knows about this. And seek out those opportunities in your time with Him, in your generosity, in your acts of kindness, in your conversations with others. Tell the person who needs it, then don't go and tell everybody that you told them. Just keep it between you and the Lord. And by doing that, you're going to find that you will see what your motive is. It brings that clarity. Now, I know that we can do public work with the right motive. Like, I get that. But I also know how challenging that is. When you volunteer, when you serve, when you share messages, when you sing, when you do whatever it is, when you are in ministry or whatever it might be, on a public platform, you can have the right motive, but it is so easy for it to be the wrong motive. And so if you are sharing publicly, I want to remind you, just check your motives regularly and make sure that you're doing it to please the Lord as the primary. So to the nurses, to the teachers, to the mothers, to the workers, to you, the Christian, who's walking with the Lord, where your acts, the work that you are doing is not recognized to the degree that it should be. Well, I want you to know that even though you might not receive the applause or the recognition for your service, that there is a great motive for you to hold on to. And that motive we find in Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 and 24. And whatever you do, do it with your whole heart, as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ. And when you can see that the impact of all of your hidden work is one day going to be revealed, and it's going to be revealed in the most significant and the most important and the most beautiful way, because God is not going to just applaud the work, He's going to applaud the motive. And the motive points back to Him, so that He is glorified through it. And until that day, I want you to keep looking for those opportunities to do the hidden work. Keep building those faithful steps, no matter how difficult it might seem, no matter how many times you don't get recognized, because the significance of what you're doing goes far beyond just this world, because we are running a different race. We are aiming to reach for the ultimate prize, one that is eternal, one that never fades. And then one day, we'll see that that is worth applauding. And when we hear that applause, the applause of heaven, well, then we'll very quickly realize that nothing on earth can come close to that, because it will not just make us feel good, but it'll do what it's supposed to do, and that is to bring God the ultimate glory and praise, because that's why we're running this race. So to you, keep running, keep doing the work, keep your motive pure, and keep pleasing the Lord in every single thing that you do.